everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies. Hey!
Well, for those of you who know us, you'll get this reference. We got a wang banger of an episode today for sure. We got so much to get into and talk about here on the Geek Buddies. We are keeping this to a 3-topic show today because all 3 topics with you are going to be a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the Russos. We're going to talk about some new trailers. We're going to review the finale of The Boys, spoiler review. So that's going to be in the back end, but that's essentially what our show is going to be about today. But we got to introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where I'm going to be working on a new project next week.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Hope you get down to Comic-Con in time.
Hopefully.
There'll be an opening on Thursday night. So if you see Mike or Mike, you try and see if you can get into their room. Maybe you can get into their room on Thursday night. We shall see. No. Okay,
We're good.
I'm sure cutie. Anyway, all right, let's get into things. The way the show works, for those of you who may be new, and thank you very much for taking a chance on us. If you are, we talk about a geek news item, take a break in between each of the geek news items, and get into our main geek news item, which will be our spoiler review of the season finale of season 4 of The Boys. So that's on the back end. And if you want to just jump to that now, look at the time codes down below, and you can jump right to it here on this video. But Michael, you are starting us off, so let's get it going, my friend.
Well, the big story of the week is the Avengers. Ew. Guys, there's 2 Avengers movies coming. And beyond that, who the fuck knows? The Avengers movies, Avengers 5 and Avengers 6, previously called the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, currently called We'll See, have gone through a lot, starting with the loss of Jonathan Majors as Kang, and then questions of would Kang continue? Is it going to be somebody else? Nobody knows. But the excitement of the changes happening on screen are nothing compared to what's going on behind the scenes, where writers and directors are being flipped through faster than flying through the multiverse. And the thing that they said would never happen looks like it's happening. The Russo brothers said after doing 2 Avengers movies, and that was after doing Winter Soldier and Civil War, 4 Marvel movies was enough and they were ready to move on, and everybody agreed that the Russos would not be coming back to do more Avengers movies. But now it looks like, with the Hollywood Reporter reporting it this week, the Russo brothers very likely are coming back to do Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. And fan response has been pretty divided about it, which is pretty interesting. So, with that being said, that's the directing side of it. But Johnny, I think Jeff this week also broke some news about potential information on the writing side. Do you want to talk about that?
Just to be clear, not everybody thought the Russos weren't coming back. I
will say Johnny has been pretty consistent in saying he thought this was going to happen. And I just agreed with what everybody else said and said it wasn't happening. But it looks like on this one instance, mark the day, mark the time.
Mark the time.
John Rocha was right.
Yes, listen, if you can get a big free agent who used to play for your team, you go get a big free agent who used to play for your team. The Russos makes all the sense of the world. And I'll tell you, this is a double-edged sort of a story because Jeff had this story for the Hot Mic. We were going to break it on the Hot Mic. And unfortunately, Jeff now realizes he posted the thumbnail of the Hot Mic at 11:55 or something like that. And then 11:59, Hollywood Reporter dropped this story. So they clearly scooped us for the story. That being said, they deserve all the credit. Boris Kit and the crew over there, they get the credit. But what Jeff dropped on the Hot Mic was that one of the writers, either Marcus or McFeely, because of course it was Marcus and McFeely who wrote those Avengers movies, one of them is going to come back for one of these 2 films, either Avengers 5 or Avengers 6. And certainly Avengers 5 is open now that Waldron has been removed. I should get you guys' thoughts on that as well. But yeah, that's the rumor. And Jeff says it's probably 6, but everything's in play, I think, now and up in the air. But the Russos brothers, from what I understand from people who are not saying this out loud behind the scenes, this is a done deal. This is going to happen. They haven't officially signed it, but it is pretty much going to happen. So you can start banking on it now. I like the idea. I love that they're coming back. I'm excited. And either Marcus or McFeely, I love them coming back as well. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, let's talk about like the pros and cons, because online, again, this is news that I was actually surprised by the response, because all
Yeah.
things being equal, I think that Infinity War and Endgame are almost impossible movies to land, and the fact that that Marcus
Point.
McFeely and the Russo brothers landed those movies as well as they did, and pretty much wrapped up phases 1, 2, and 3 for Marvel in the most spectacular fashion possible. I would have thought that the Russo brothers coming back on board would be a sigh of relief, particularly given the rocky reception that a lot of the most recent Marvel movies and TV shows have had. That being said, it does seem pretty split. Some people are happy about it, are saying, look, these guys did Winter Soldier, Civil War, and the last two Avengers movies, and that kind of is the backbone of the MCU for phases 2 and 3. Other people are saying post Endgame, the Russo brothers have had a little bit of a spotty record and their movies haven't been great. So are we taking two people that are past their prime, not going to be able to land this plane, and bringing them back in to get more mediocre movies? I have my opinions on it, and Johnny, it sounds like you're excited about this decision. So let's go to you first. Why don't you elaborate a little bit, and then Shannon can let us know what he thinks.
Well, I think I'm surprised that there's a, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, should I? I guess I'm not surprised. Nowadays, there's a pushback for everything, and there are people who are trying to defend anybody who's gonna get quote unquote canceled. So you can never bank on anything universally in life anymore. So, but for me, I'm really surprised. I really was surprised initially, and then I came around and was like, well, no, I get it, because some people are invested in having to pick something negative about Marvel or Disney because they have to create content. But on the other side, I can see there's legitimate concern. They haven't made a good movie in 5 years since Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. Their other fare has not done so well overall. And are they out of pace with what was happening? Because like when you're in the schoolhouse and everyone's talking about things, then you're in the rhythm of the schoolhouse. Once you leave the schoolhouse and try to come back, those are all different students now. Can you really get back into the rhythm of things? So for me, I think there is cause to be legitimately concerned, but judging from the track record, as you pointed out, Michael, I think this was a smart choice, and they should be allowed to see what they can do with it. Shan?
Yeah, I think when you look at their career post Endgame, they didn't have Feige with them anymore. Like when you look at even their career pre-Winter Soldier, they were known as really good comedy directors. Like they worked on Arrested Development, which was, created by Mitch Hurwitz. They worked on Community, which was created by Dan Harmon. So they've had someone that they have been answering to. I think post Endgame, they were in a position where they had a lot of goodwill built up, where we can do the things we want to do the way we want to do them. And we've now seen like, oh, okay, maybe you are the type of folks, like you're obviously incredibly talented and you knew how to juggle all these storylines, but you might need that guiding hand that Feige provided. So it's interesting because I think post Endgame, had anything taken off, had the Gray Man been like, it got a lot of views, but no one talks about that movie. I mean, I left feeling very underwhelmed by it. I didn't make it through 10 minutes of Citadel, and I had heard Cherry was just not good. So if their career had gone a different way, had all three of these things hit, would they be coming back? Probably not.
Good question.
But in the same way with the MCU, if everything had been going according to plan, would they be going to the Russos? Probably not. So this is a situation where, as the Russos, I would be nervous because you are known for landing this incredible plane that consisted of 4 movies and a 24 at that time 24 film cinematic universe. Yeah. I'd be worried going back to that because like, we left on top. Maybe we should stay on top. But for Feige, it makes sense. Like these are the guys that delivered it last time. We're in a situation where we need a captain of the ship, and these guys did it before. So I'm hopeful, but at the same time, as you already said, Johnny, like they've been out of the universe for a few years now, and there is going to be a catching up. And even within the universe, when Avengers Infinity War started, this was a story that was already going. There were all of these interpersonal dynamics that all of these characters had. with a lot of the characters that they're supposedly going to be using in the next two movies, a lot of these characters haven't met. So it's going to be interesting the way that this story is going to be told. I mean, I know that there was a tweet on that Discussing Film had actually retweeted from puck.news. I'm not familiar with this outlet, but they had talked about how CAA had tried to convince Feige to hire a variety of people, including Noah Hawley and Greg Berlanti. And like Noah Hawley, I'm like, man, Noah Hawley, he's a really interesting storyteller. I mean, he might be, Legion, Fargo, he might be a little esoteric for the MCU. And Greg Berlanti, it's like, yeah, you look at the success of what he was able to do on the CW. But I think we might be looking at it with rose-colored glasses. Like if you go back and see some of the things that he's never done anything on this level. Joss Whedon hadn't either. But again, it was a much different situation when you're combining 6 characters versus 60. So it's going to be very interesting the way things come out. I imagine next Saturday in Hall H. Yeah. I'm very curious about this panel, like how much they're actually going to announce. I think it's only scheduled to be an hour. And in the past, that covers about 3 projects. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's Agatha. That's Captain America. That's Thunderbolt. Maybe you'll have the Fantastic Four stop by to say hello, but they haven't started shooting yet. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But in terms of the Russos and the MCU, they have a proven track record, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Well, it's interesting. I think, what was it, about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago? It's hard to tell, but like there was the article that came out where Kevin Feige and Marvel said they were happy being back on their heels. They liked being back on their heels. They preferred to be scrappy, and they liked that they had something to prove again. I don't think they like it very much. I'm gonna call bullshit on that. I think that Marvel is in full panic mode. I think that Marvel knows that it's not working. I mean, they knew it was. I mean, I think panic mode set in hard after Quantumania. I mean, as has been talked about in the MCU book, I think there was a couple projects that didn't really hit, but they kind of knew it wasn't going to hit, and they thought Quantumania was going to be massive, and it was the opposite. And I think that's when they really started to freak out. They started doing the PR spin saying, we like freaking out. This is fun. And now I think we're really seeing like they're panicked. I mean, the fact that like writers and directors, it's just a revolving door, whether it's Blade, whether it's the Avengers movies, like it's like the Wild West in there. And I think, the Russos are fine. Like, yeah. I think like fine is the wrong word. I think they did an amazing job directing those movies. And I think that, look, even though they went off and did their own things, I think Shannon makes a good point. Like when you bring them in and say, here's the thing that we want to do, and here's kind of the vision of it, and we need you guys to really land this, like I think they do a good job. I think that we're underestimating the Marcus and McFeely of it all. And to Shannon's point, one of the reasons those last Infinity War and Endgame work so well is because they tie up threads that had been put in place for years. Marcus and McFeely took Captain America. They didn't write Captain America, but they took that Captain America movie, and they took that Peggy story and they ran with it in Winter Soldier. Yeah. And then they ran with it in Civil War, like Peggy's funeral in Civil War. So when you get to the end of Endgame and the final shot is Steve dancing with Peggy, there's a sense of completion that is really satisfying. Cap and Bucky. Cap and the government, Cap going like every little piece of it, Tony and Cap. And you can even say with Civil War, the Tony and Peter Parker relationship, the T'Challa and Steve Rogers relationship. Like you can go through and see what Marcus and McFeely did in just those 4 movies. That's not even getting into the great work that Taika did, or the great work that Coogler did, or the great work all around with all these other fun things in the sandbox. But they really set things up. So when you got into Infinity Game, like there's no setup. Like you just hit the ground running, and all the pieces that had been, it's just like they set up all the dominoes, and those 2 movies just knocked the dominoes down in the most perfect fashion. And so Shannon is right that even bringing the Russos in now, and even if you bring in either Marcus or McFeely, this is a different ballgame because they're not inheriting a bunch of amazing threads and character dynamics between characters that have been set up over 2 phases. They're inheriting basically a mess. Even though that mess has some really good things in it. Like, I love Shang-Chi. I think No Way Home is one of the best things they've done. I hate Multiverse of Madness. I love WandaVision and I love Wanda Maximoff. I love Vision. Like, I personally really enjoy She-Hulk. Like, I think there's a lot of great pieces, but those pieces are just not lined up to do what was done before. So even if you bring in the people that did what they did before, they actually have to do a completely different thing now. And can they do that? I would argue, I think this is a safe bet? Yes. If I were Marvel, would I be making a safe bet right now? Yes. Like, when the chips are down, I was going to try and make a poker analogy, but I can't because I don't really understand how to play poker. But when the chips are down, you don't let it ride? Is that you don't go all in. You don't go all in. You don't go all in.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, so I think that this is probably the smartest move for them, but I still really question what they're going to do. And the other issue is, we live in a world where, speaking of Greg Berlanti, look, Greg Berlanti did the entire Crisis on Infinite, or his version of Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW. Warner Brothers Animation has recently done in animation their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Avengers 5, if you're leading into Secret Wars, is kind of a version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is the multiverse is collapsing. Crisis on Infinite Earths is the multiverse collapsing. We're all tired of the multiverse. And almost by definition, Avengers 5 has to be the multiverse is collapsing. That's what they've been setting up. You can't veer away from that. Are we going to enjoy that? Do we care? Like, those are the questions I have. So I don't agree with everybody who says the Russos are a bad choice because of everything that's happened post Endgame. And I do think that Marvel is probably smart to make this choice, but I do think Marvel's in full panic mode, and I don't know that when you're in full panic mode, you make the strongest creative decisions. So I'm still concerned.
I think that's an excellent point. Sorry about the background not being changed, guys. I would also say what Shannon pointed out, I had never thought about. The idea that, like Benioff and Weiss, like, if you don't have a strong foundation of source material on Benioff and Weiss's side, you saw what happened with season 8 and some of season 7 of Game of Thrones. On the Russo side, if you don't have a good, strong executive producer like Feige guiding you into certain spots and maybe curtailing some of your other instincts, then you might come up with a Gray Man or Cherry or Citadel or what have you. And so putting them back in. But Michael, you also make an excellent point. The other element of this is you've got to have a script that understands how to corral all these. And look, this is really important. I think you make a great point, Michael. And I'm going to make a sports reference for people who get it. Joe Gibbs. I don't get it. Okay. Joe Gibbs was a fantastic coach for the used to be Washington Redskins. They won 3 Super Bowls under Joe Gibbs. He left. The franchise went to crap. He came back later on, completely not his players, completely not the people he picked. The franchise was a mess. Came in, guided us to the playoffs twice, but we never went to the Super Bowl. And so under his second time. So coming back, you might still be able to find the magic, but you might not be able to find the magic fully to really get it over the line. And so I wonder, the thing of George Miller coming back after all these years, that's a rarity most of the time when the same person comes back all these years later. The same person who directed Rocky 5, John G. Alvinson. So coming back into your own franchise, Coppola, Godfather 3, not great. 1 and 2, classic. So it doesn't always work out. So walking into this mess, Mike and Shannon, you both make excellent points that they have a lot to clean up if they're going to walk into this situation. I just hope they've been talking to Feige this whole time about what they would do, about what they would have done. I hope, because if not, it's a hell of a catching up they got to do.
I don't think they have. I mean, I think when the Russos left, it was pretty clear that everybody was like, and look, and to Marvel's credit, I mean, a lot of the people that they've talked about bringing in, that they were bringing in at one point, I mean, I think Marvel has been making an effort to have more diversity behind the camera and in front of the camera and everything else. But I think at the end of the day, Marvel was like, we don't want to bring the 2 white guys back in. We're trying to really shake things up. We're trying to like do what we're gonna do. But they're kind of so like they're at a point now where they're just like, we just need something good. Like we need this, and we don't know what to do. And I think that again, you know, there's a vibe, and I'm sure this will come up a lot post next weekend as we see how the panels their panels at Comic-Con go. But there was a vibe for 3 phases of Marvel for a decade where they just had this swagger. They had a we get what you want, and you know that we get what you want, and we're all on board with this. Like they were like, everyone else in Hollywood was like, how the fuck is Marvel doing this? Like they're putting a fucking talking raccoon and a talking tree on screen and everybody's eating it up. Like, why does this work so well? And it was like Marvel really just had this momentum, and now it just feels like they're trying really hard to convince us that they still got it. And you're like, I don't know what to do.
Do you, Shannon? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, there is a grasping at straws feeling right now.
Yeah,
you hear all the behind the scenes kind of turmoil about the new Cap movie. I know Johnny really liked that trailer. I was a little more mixed on it. Right. And the thing is, it's like you want them to get it back. Like there is an energy in a theater when everyone has the sort of same cinematic vocabulary, and that is so much fun, and it is such an incredible ride. But I mean, you heard all the stories about sort of the influx of, Disney Plus content that they had to get out because, Disney Plus was going to be a thing, and how they put some stuff out there that maybe wasn't quite ready to go. That they maybe they had an outline of what they were going to do, but that outline was kind of dependent on everything being executed perfectly, and not everything was executed perfectly. And that's not to include the curveballs that they were thrown by, like the Jonathan Majors situation. So I mean, I do think Mike makes a really good point. I mean, even though we got Feige, we got the Russos, you're getting one half of Marcus and McFeely for one movie. And if it is in fact 6, like obviously we don't know that, but if it is in fact 6, it's like the furthest one, we might need the help sooner.
I think, I mean, honestly, I think the first one is the harder one. I'm not saying Secret Wars is going to be easy, but like the road to Secret Wars is what's hard. Like we have a bunch of shit going on. I mean, we talk about this all the time, but like, and I don't know what movies are coming out between now and then that we might not know about, as particularly given Bob Iger's new, we're only releasing this many movies a year. But like, there's so many loose threads. Like, so we got Doctor Strange and Clea over here, like kind of like looking at incursions. Nobody knows who Spider-Man is. She-Hulk is just living her life. Miss Marvel and
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop are ostensibly putting together the Young Avengers. Agatha all along is going to introduce Joe Locke, who is clearly Billy Wanda's son. And that's going to be a thing. Wanda's dead, but if I were Marvel, the very first thing I would do is undead that real quick, because Wanda is something that everyone loves. And you've got all of these different things happening, and we're going to have Sam Wilson being the new Cap. Like, we've got the Thunderbolts team, we've got Val, we've got whatever's going on with Wakanda and Namor. Like, there's all these things, and then we're throwing the Fantastic Four in. So like that's not even exhaustive. That's what I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. Vision is parts unknown.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is living his life. His sister is getting the 10 rings going again. Like, there's all of these. Captain Marvel is living in a farmhoce, while Spectre,
Monica Rambeau's in another universe.
Monica Rambeau's in another universe with the X-Men. So that's what the fifth movie is. That the fifth movie is
bringing everybody together. Yeah,
who's doing what? And how does this all come together? And again, if you've read a lot of the Avengers comics that led up to the more recent version of Secret Wars, what happens is everyone's life starts being affected because incursions are happening. And the entire planet is not even the planet, the entire universe is going to collapse, and everyone's got to come together and deal with it. And then, spoiler alert, they don't. Like, that's what Secret Wars is that like, and then how that goes. But like, that's a whole lot to go, like, you thought Infinity War was rough. Like, Infinity War looks like a breeze compared to bringing all of these characters that mostly don't even know each other
Yeah.
together in some capacity. So the fifth movie, if you knock the fifth movie out of the park, I'm not saying the sixth movie is by any means easy, but when you have these movies, the way Infinity War and Endgame work, Infinity War was basically a 3-hour action sequence that set up we failed.
Yeah.
And then Endgame was dealing with the failure and then going, we have this one shot, let's do it. These two movies are a little bit the same. I mean, this is, how do we get all of these people together and make us care about things that we haven't cared about in a minute and go, oh, we didn't do it. We have one shot to put the universe back together. Let's do it. Like, that's what this is going to be.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I would put all of my heavy hitting on the fifth movie.
Yeah, I like what Jeff said. You know, and I subscribe to his newsletter, and Jeff said something really interesting about the writing aspect of it all, right? That it could be that for 5, as you said, Mike, the most important one, and Shannon, you concur, getting everybody back together, checking in where everybody is at, and seeing where you're going to go from here. It may be that they don't have time. You know, Jeff speculated they don't have time to start from scratch. So it could be that Marcus and McFeely are taking whatever Waldron did and whoever was involved before and kind of, you know, rewriting it to a degree to make it fit with what they want to do with 6. It could be either one or both, as I said, but they could be involved in it, 5 with that script. So they're like, okay, we're 3/4 of the way there. Can you come in and fix all this stuff to make it work so it can lead into 6? So maybe that's what they're doing there. And maybe Waldron gets the credit or whatever. And then we move on to 6 and next. So 5 is super important. So it makes no sense to have a person writing 6 who has nothing to do with 5, right? And I think with the way they've set up Endgame and Infinity War before, it makes all the sense in the world to have them involved in this. The other element of this, which I think is fascinating that Jeff reported on too, is that Marvel basically begged the Russos to come back. No one wanted to take the job. John Levy absolutely turned this down. Other directors were talked to, but look at the situation. Would you want to step in at this point and put your brand on the line to take on this massive stuff with a fandom that is ready to turn on you at any moment with anything you do? And Robert Downey Jr., do you want to come back to put yourself in the hands of a director who isn't that seasoned or experienced with directing a movie of this size? Do you want to do that? Chris Evans, do you want to come back? Do you want to risk tarnishing the legacy of these characters and the way you went out? These are questions that you have. I think they're natural questions to have. And if the check's big enough, you forget the answer. So you go and you go in there. But like in this situation, from what Jeff is speculating and reporting from what he's hearing in his sources, Marvel essentially was begging the Russos to come back by the end here because people were turning them down left and right. The Berlanti story you referenced, I don't think they actually seriously considered Berlanti or Hawley. I think that was more like, yeah, okay, well, sure. But in the end, no, I don't think we want to go with them. And so what have you, which is fair. But like the other stuff, I would not be surprised if that's the case that Jeff is speculating because, like I said, who wants to step into this quagmire of shit and take all the hell for it? I don't know that I would want to do that. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
Word. All right, well, there you go. Anything more on this, Michael? This was what you brought up. So anything more on this?
No, I mean, look, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think that we're going to have a lot. This story obviously is a continually moving target, but I think that I have a feeling there's going to be a lot to follow up on after this next weekend in San Diego. So I think we had a lot to say about it now, but I think we're going to have a lot more to say about it when we do our post Comic-Con breakdown.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure. All right, well, let's take a quick break. And on the other side, we'll get into some trailers. Speaking of Marvel, right after this. Well, Mr. McClung, take it away, my friend.
With trailers. All 3 of the trailers we're talking today. This is all, some of them, it's their third look. With the case of this first one, we're going to talk about 11th, 12th, maybe a trailer that, for my money, you probably didn't need to release. And I'm going to issue a little spoiler warning. If you haven't watched this trailer and you don't want a couple of things spoiled, because we're going to talk about the third trailer, not counting the TV spots, the third trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine. This one is coming out next Friday. We get a bit more of the emotional story of Deadpool talking about that he turns everything into a joke, but he actually really needs this version of Logan's help because Deadpool's world, even though it's only 9 people, as he holds up a picture, he's like, this is my whole world and they're in danger unless I get your help. Again, spoiler warning. We're going to talk about the trailer. If you don't want to know some of these cameos, go ahead and drop out now. But we get to see a fun peek. This isn't a huge spoiler, but we get to see a quick little peek at Lady Pool or Lady Deadpool. Basically, Deadpool with a big kind of Madonna blonde ambition ponytail. But then we also, at the end, we see the confirmed return of X-23, played by everyone's favorite slaughtered Padawan, Daphne Keene. I thought this trailer was great. It continues to use a lot of the same music. Again, this is not a trailer I would have released because the moment that I saw Daphne Keene pop up, I'm like, why would you put that out there? But maybe that just means there's so much more that they're saving for the film. Johnny, I'll throw it over to you first. What did you think of our 18th look at Deadpool and Wolverine?
And you guys might find this crazy, but this is my favorite trailer that they've released for this movie. Like, I liked that they went into the emotion of the story because I'll be honest with you, sometimes he does get a bit irritating with the jokes. So the fact that he started off saying, look, I know everybody thinks I make a joke out of everything, but there's some real stuff that affects me. And that's the joy of the first Deadpool movie and elements of the second Deadpool movie is the actual emotion that Ryan Reynolds can conjure into this character of Wade Wilson and the love he has, for that lady in his life, probably by Miranda Baccarin. Like that is so powerful throughout the first 2 movies and the moments when he really opens up and connects and all this. So it's fun to see that. So the fact that they're opening the door to that more and more, and then this focused on Wolverine in such an interesting way. When they started showing Logan clips, I immediately went, so I guess they're going to do this. We need to prepare ourselves. Those of us who are Logan lovers, this is going to go down. And then effing dead Daphne Keene shows up at the end. And I'll be honest with you, Shannon, I agree with you because this cameo didn't do a damn thing for me. Not a thing, because it wasn't an exciting cameo of her showing up. It's just like, you're always the wrong guy until you're not the wrong guy. And it's like, what? Why are we? What? That's how you want to do the cameo of her popping up if you're going to reveal it? So it just seemed like kind of a kind of cameo for her. But I love the Sabretooth stuff. And I love the Lady Deadpool stuff. And we got more of Emma Corrin. People need to be talking about this. Some of the imagery and the visuals of the scenes with Emma Corrin looked fantastic. So I can't wait to see what they do with this role and how they play off of everybody in the movie, because I enjoy them as an actor in a number of projects. So I like that. But most of all, I came out of this trailer feeling very confident about the movie, where I had been maybe a little shaky in the previous trailers. This one I felt like, okay, this is going to be a hell of an experience. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on this particular trailer.
Mikey, speaking of Cassandra Nova, you hungry for some time spaghetti?
Well, I liked the time spaghetti shot because it really just linked up with Loki season 2. So you really see that. I mean, obviously we know that we're in the void and we see Alioth and we see all of those things. So I think that seeing that spaghetti shot, it just really it does feel, as I was talking about before, with an MCU that currently feels a bit fractured, Loki season 2 being something that we all mostly agree pretty much was satisfying for us. Seeing those elements in the movie that's what I like. I like when I see something in a Marvel movie and I go, oh, okay, I see the connections. I agree with both of you, actually. I don't think they needed this trailer. I think this trailer falls under the category of Marvel is very concerned about everything. And I think that they I don't think they needed this trailer, and also it's my favorite trailer. Yeah. So I agree with Shannon that this was not necessary and they didn't need to do it. Everyone is going to see this fucking movie. And if it delivers and it's good, everyone's going to go, oh God, thank God we got a Marvel movie that's good. And then everyone else is going to go see it. That's the way that this is going to work. But I think that they are so stressed out right now and so concerned. Kevin Feige came out in somebody asked him in that article last week that we talked about, where someone was like, is this movie kid appropriate? And he was like, shockingly, this movie has a lot of heart. with a lot of violence and F-bombs, but it has a lot of heart. And I think they're really trying to make sure that everybody knows that there's an actual story here. I think that they know that all of us are kind of like, we get it, the multiverse, the Fox cast, the stunt casting, the Easter eggs. Like, if that's all you're going to give us, fuck you. And so they're so worried about us knowing that there's an actual story that they're like, fuck, let's do a trailer that gives you the actual emotional stuff. I would amend what John says. I agree mostly, but I disagree slightly. I think that the heart of Deadpool is what makes the first movie work. And I think it's not really in the second movie. I think that there's moments that they attempt it, but I think the reason the second movie fails is because, to me, the reason the second movie fails to me is because it doesn't have that. I think it kind of falls too far on the Deadpool wink, wink, nod, nod, let's just be really funny, and doesn't have the heart. So the reason this is my favorite trailer is because that's what I love. And so Deadpool, getting to know that Deadpool has real stakes here, and Wolverine has real stakes. I disagree with John on the Daphne Keane moment. I think that's the best part of the trailer.
Really?
I think, well, because I think the whole setup is, okay, Deadpool, who jokes about everything and doesn't take anything seriously, finally has something that's so important to him that he's going to be serious about it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like that is strong. Wolverine going, like the whole thing that Wade says to Logan, where he's like, look, in my universe, you are the guy. And he's like, well, that's not who the fuck I am. And so Daphne X-23 coming in and going, especially if you've watched Logan and you love Logan, going, you're never the guy until you're the guy. Like, that's your thing. Like, you going, I'm not the one for this job is literally what Logan does in every universe until he doesn't. And so I loved that moment, and I wish I hadn't seen it. So it's one of those things that I think that this trailer sells the fact that we're going to get more than just a bunch of cameos and Easter eggs, which is great. Yeah. But I was going to go see this movie anyway, and I would have loved to come out of the movie and gone, fuck, man. I knew we were going to get all those cameos and Easter eggs, but this movie had some fucking heart.
Yeah.
But I think Marvel's in a place now where like, guys, it's got heart. It's got comedy. It's got Easter eggs. You're going to love it. Come on. Don't make sure you go. Marvel's great. You love Marvel. And so like, again, I felt like there was a little bit of, guys, come on, we're going. Calm down.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag. Like, do I think that this trailer was great? Yes. Do I want to see it? No.
The audible response she would have got, her entrance would have gotten, because I mean, it's been rumored for months, but not actually seeing it until it happens in a theater full of people, that audible response would have been fantastic. And it's still going to happen to a point. Like, there are going to be some people that did not see this trailer. But yes, I think this looks really, really good. I love the fact how much they're leaning into the emotional side of it, because we know Deadpool is going to be cracking jokes. And that part of the dynamic that does make Deadpool and Wolverine, specifically Ryan Reynolds and real life friend Hugh Jackman, what makes their dynamic work is the comedic interplay that they're going to have.
Yeah.
But Deadpool and Wolverine comes out next Friday, July 26th, just a mere 3 weeks later. We get Alien Romulus. So this is the final trailer for Alien Romulus. This is the third trailer. Again, if the movie didn't get you with the first two, I don't know if this one's going to do the job. But for me, I mean, not even being a huge fan of the Alien franchise, I think this looks really, really great. I mean, the idea that it's one part alien, one part aliens. The dread is there. It looks like the gore is there, and adding this element that, to my mind, we didn't know about until this trailer. The fact that this starts off as a heist movie. The idea that a group of thieves are showing up to this derelict space station and they get more than they bargained for. I was just like, oh shit, I didn't know that. What a great addition to that world. But I'll throw it over to Vogel first. Mikey, what did you think of our third look at Alien Romulus?
Well, as someone who is a huge fan of the Alien franchise, I am so hyped for this movie. I can't. And again, did we need this trailer? Probably not. But this trailer didn't do what the Deadpool Wolverine did. Like, it showed me a little bit more, but I feel like there's still plenty to see. We've still barely gotten to look at the aliens. Like, all the trailers have really kind of focused more on the face huggers themselves. But like, this movie definitely got into the graphic nature of it. Like, we've seen face huggers attached to people. We've seen all the chest bursting stuff, but like, this gets nitty gritty. Like, some of those shots where you're like, you know, you're seeing the shot of that little tube from the face hugger go in the throat. Like, it's just like there's something about the face hugger and the entire concept of the alien gestating inside of you and then bursting out that, like, when they made that movie in 1979,
yeah, 79.
In 1979, like, they just tapped into some type of deep, visceral fear, something between the fear of a monster, the fear of suffocation, the fear of illness,
Childbirth.
something inside you. Yeah, like the fear of child. Like, they just tapped into something that just gets you at a deep, visceral level. And this trailer doubles down on the terror of that. Even the girl, and we saw, like, in an earlier trailer, you see the one character, and she, like, opens up her shirt and the chest started glowing, and I was like, oh, is that like a new thing the alien does? But now you really see what's happening is she's, like, holding basically a thing behind her, and you see the thing moving, and I'm like, this is it just gets me. I'm stoked. I mean, I'm getting all the vibes that I got when all those Prey trailers were coming out. Like, you know, it's a franchise that came in strong back in the day and has had some questionable entries since then, and this just feels like it's getting back to form. It feels like a really simple and straightforward story, and I could not be more excited about this.
Johnny, you ready to dust off your Space Marine uniform?
I can't wait for this movie. I mean, the level of, and I loved this trailer because what it's doing really smartly, as you said, Michael, it is stripping the franchise down to Prey level, like they did for Predator with Prey. So smart. And you're bringing a bunch of new, strong, young actors that maybe a lot of people don't in the mainstream know. But Kaylee Spaney, Isabella Merced, they've been doing some great work over the last few years. And these other actors as well popping up in different things. And you're getting a stable of these young actors together. And Shannon, you're so smart because people love this alien creature. It's the reason they come back more than anything else besides Ripley, obviously. It's the alien creature. So if you make the alien creature somewhat maybe an anti-hero and not a full-on villain, you don't know what's going on. You're challenged as a viewer, like, well, what side am I on? I mean, they are thieves, so they kind of brought this upon themselves. Are they going into the territory of something else and trying to take from something? So there's questions, is all I'm saying.
I don't think the alien is an anti-hero.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead and put down right now that I don't think the alien comes in at the end and like saves the day. You guys get out of here. I got this, and runs back in. Like, I don't think that's where this is going.
That's the next trailer. That character is the next trailer.
It's a Kaylee Spaney. All right, I'm leaving. This, yeah, maybe, but I think what it really hammers home, and this is, I think, an aspect of Bayona's. Oh no, I'm sorry. Who's the director again? Fede Alvarez.
Fede Alvarez.
There's always a sexual element, right, to Alien to a degree. He really goes for it here. I mean, those shots of that is sexual assault, is what you're seeing, and so the fact that that's an element of this movie makes it even more horrific. It makes it even more horrific. And so I think that's fantastic. But the direction, the cinematography, the set design, all of the stuff that they're using here throughout this trailer, I was like, God, I hope this is great because it looks like it's gonna be fantastic. So yeah, I'm so sold from this trailer.
This is the type of horror I can do.
Yeah.
Something that I know isn't going to get me because I'm a guilty Southern Baptist. Anyways, Alien Romulus comes out August 16th. Then a mere 3 weeks after that, everything is coming in 3 week increments.
Wow.
This section, we get our third trailer for Beetlejuice. Now we've talked already about, did you need that third trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine? Probably not. Did you need that third trailer for Alien Romulus? Probably not. Did you need this one? Some people would argue that you did. The teaser didn't quite give us enough of the Ghost with the Most. And the second trailer, while I really liked it, there were some folks that are still like, I'm not sold on this movie. So this one definitely gives us more of Selena Gomez, Jenna Ortega's character.
Oh, wow.
Jenna Ortega's character, Astrid, the daughter of Winona Ryder, playing Lydia Dietz. I don't know why Selena Gomez just popped in. Maybe it's because I was on Wizards of Waverly Place. It's also a ghost story.
Is that what it is? It's not because they're both Latinas, but all right, go ahead. Yes.
But we get more. We get some of Astrid's story here, and we get something that I believe we had chatted about before, that it looked like Lydia was teaming up with Beetlejuice for this movie, and that was kind of confirmed. We get a lot more of the world of the afterlife that I thought was super funny. Again, the movie, I'm not totally sold. Like, I'm totally going to go see it. I don't know if it's going to be a great movie. But Johnny, let's throw it over to you first. What did you think of our third look at Beetlejuice?
This, I think you're right, Shannon. This trailer we absolutely needed. We had a nice tease, and even in the first official trailer, nice tease of the story, nice tease of Michael Keaton back. We needed to see, can Tim Burton do it again? You know, we just spent almost 30 minutes talking about, will the Russos be able to come back to a franchise? They're only 5 years removed. Imagine coming back multiple decades removed from a franchise. Can you recapture the humor, the magic? Can you tell a new story in new and interesting ways? And will the set design reflect that? Will the humor reflect that? And they nailed it across the board in this trailer, like just nailed it. I came out of this trailer going, this is Top Gun Maverick type of feeling that I had. It was like, okay, they know what they're doing. They got the magic back for this one. I love the Catherine O'Hara, Jenna Ortega moment where they're mirroring each other in the church. Very funny. But Lydia and Beetlejuice teaming up together, man, I cannot wait for that. That's going to be so much fun. And Beetlejuice having Bob be his team of people doing everything. He's turned that around. Of course he did. So there's so much about it. Plus the humor throughout. And of course, Justin Theroux is playing the Otto character. Duh. But I love that element all around works so well. And the humor is there. And also I'm sure there's going to be some emotional stakes, which is what made the first one work so well as well. So I'm excited. Still sad we don't see Gina or Alec, but it is what it is. So I like it.
Mikey, do you have the need for speed from the Ghost with the Most?
I'm kind of in the middle of you guys. I think we definitely needed this trailer. I think you definitely needed to understand a little bit more of what the story was, and now we do. I'm really excited. Like, I'm very, very excited for this movie, and I like the setup that we've got going on here with a few caveats of concern. Something that happens with sequels sometimes where they don't work is it's a little busy. And there's a lot. So it's like, okay, like we're coming back. Lydia Dietz is sort of a legend because she lived in the ghost house, and her daughter is like, fuck this shit. And then her daughter gets trapped in the afterlife, and then Lydia's teaming up, and we got to go find him. And there's a lot going on. I think one of the things to keep in mind about what makes Beetlejuice so amazing as a movie, Beetlejuice isn't in a lot of it. Like Michael Keaton is only in, I'm going to maybe say like 20 minutes of the movie. Like, it's not a lot. And what that allows Beetlejuice to be is just pure chaos. Beetlejuice doesn't really have an arc. He is the problem. Like, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin have an arc. Lydia has an arc. The Dietzes kind of coming together as a family is an arc. Beetlejuice is just pure chaos. And watching Michael Keaton be pure chaos is great. The second that Beetlejuice is like, oh, I'm teaming up with you, and I have my own story with my wife, and I'm doing all of this stuff. There is a very, there's a good chance that a little Beetlejuice goes a long way, and a lot of Beetlejuice doesn't.
Oh,
because he doesn't get to just be pure chaos. Right. So now look, if he like does a whole like I'm gonna say I'm gonna do something and then I don't do it and I got my Michael Keaton in the trailer looks great. So like I think Michael Keaton is gonna do what Michael Keaton does, and that's always A+ material. It's more like, is this story going to sustain, or are we gonna get to a point where we're like, oh, this just feels like so much work to get through. So I like everything I'm seeing. It does feel like the world. It does feel like a lot of fun, but it's like the more of the afterlife, the more time we spend in the afterlife and the more time we spend with Beetlejuice, I get a little worried about, is it going to be too much? So that's my one caveat. But I do think that we needed to get this trailer and get more of the story. And I am very excited. If we all come out at the end of that movie and say Tim Burton didn't nail it, I'm also not going to be shocked.
Well, Beetlejuice comes out September 6th.
Oof, I can't wait, man. All right, well, there you go. That's our trailer section. Thank you to Shannon McClung for leading that for us. And when we come back on the other side of this break, we will get into a spoiler review for episode 8, season 4 of The Boys. If you haven't watched it, this is your chance to turn back now. But if you don't care and want to hang out and you have watched it, then hang on after this break. We'll be right back right after this.
Let's hear it for the boys.
Oh.
All right, excellent. I like that perfectly. All right, so let's get into this thing here, man. See, we've come to the end of season 4 of The Boys here, episode 8. And listen, this one, what a fascinating timing for this episode, considering we just had an actual assassination attempt. And this show was literally about assassinating the president, possibly, which is their end. I don't know. I mean, Hollywood mirroring reality. We've talked about this season already, how the lines have blurred more than ever between fact and fiction with this show. They threw all the subtlety out and made it very clear what they were going for. And we saw it play out in different ways, though, in this episode than we had anticipated. So much happened here with Starlight being the shapeshifter and the Huey and her getting married and the real Starlight coming in and saving the day and having to confront Huey, which I thought was a fun little subtitle. Frenchie, or some subplot rather, Frenchie and Kamiko finding their love together here beautifully on that walkway. But also Frenchie discovering the virus and creating the virus for this whole situation. Butcher now embracing at the end, after Ryan did what he did to Grace, he is now embracing his inner Joe Kessler. That is going to come out. Ashley has taken the Compound B. Where's that going to go? A-Train wasn't even in this episode, so except for his movie being shelved, a la Batgirl style there. And Sage coming back saying that she essentially had planned this whole thing. So a lot of fascinating stuff. And at the end, of course, Victoria Newman is ripped in half. Homelander is essentially now back in power with Calhoun as the president after Homie got arrested. So, Michael, all of this led to essentially Homelander sitting on top of the pile yet again, probably even more dangerous than he's ever been before. What were your thoughts on episode 8 here of season 4 of The Boys?
I mean, well, first, I laughed so hard. The very first thing that happens when you put the episode on is it comes up and says, this episode is going to show political violence. What it says is, any similarity to real life events is coincidental and unintentional. And I was like, the fuck it is. Like, come on. Oh, we didn't mean to do this thing where it looks exactly like real life. Okay. So that just made me laugh. You know, it's kind of what we said last week. I think this was a rocky episode.
You do?
It felt kind of like a bunch of shit was rushed, and there was so many moving pieces that I don't know that I was excited or thrilled. Like, there was no moment where I was like, oh shit, oh wow, that's awesome, oh my god, what's gonna happen? I was kind of okay, so what about this story? Okay, so there they are. Like, not in a oh my god, I'm done with The Boys. I love this world, I love these characters, but this felt a little strained to me. Like, it was like one too many things to track. Like, so like Huey's dealing with the shapeshifter, but then like Newman's dealing with the Homelander stuff, and then Firecracker and Homelander out Newman, so now Newman's dealing with that, so then she calls Huey, but Butcher's got this going, and there was so many moving parts and moving pieces. And for the first half of the episode, our heroes are mostly sitting around. Like, yes, everyone's just kind of sitting around until some shit happens, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to go on the defensive. But then even going on the defensive is like, okay, here's the plan, here's what we're going to do, we got this plan. And then Butcher just comes in and like venoms everybody. And you're like, okay, so this is the thing. And so this, as opposed to feeling like a season finale where you really like wrapped up, like, and I think The Boys traditionally, in my opinion, like seasons 1, 2, and 3, those finales felt like finales. Like, there was definitely pieces that were leading you into the next season. This just felt like this could have been a mid-season to me. And like, we're going into the next level of now superheroes are taking over. So it wasn't, and again, it's a weird thing, because if you take any individual story, and it's the same thing I said last week, like, everything's well written. The characters all felt like the characters. Like, there was interesting stuff in the individual stories, but I just didn't feel that like momentum of being like, yes.
Okay. Shannon, your thoughts on this episode? Do you concur with Mike, or did you like it a little bit more? What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I concur with most of what Mike says. I mean, I do believe like this did feel like a finale. I mean, I feel like with the characters where they all end up, it's like, yeah, that's a finale. I think the things that led up to it probably could have been sprinkled in a few episodes before for some of their stories. Yeah, all the stuff that we're getting, it's all good, entertaining stuff. It's just missing that build that they have done in the past so well, like that feeling that you're on kind of a runaway train. Like, and again, we talked about last week when Johnny, you said it was the penultimate episode. I'm like, oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Like this doesn't feel like that. But what we got individually, like there's some logic things that don't quite make sense. Like when did the shifter have time to send that video out that she took of Bob Singer saying if you killed Newman? It's like, well, she dead. So unless she did that right before, because I imagine she had some sort of recording device to show Starlight killing Robert Singer. I'm like, that's why that was there, but you don't actually get the moment when she sent it and why and why. Like she wouldn't have, logic wise, that just doesn't quite make sense. Kimiko and Frenchie getting together, I actually didn't like.
Really?
I loved their friendship. I love when we get to explore platonic friendships, and it just didn't feel quite earned to me. And that's not to say that it couldn't have gotten there at some point. It just, what we got before it just, that didn't feel like its conclusion at this point. Gotcha. It felt like that's what you needed for the finale, because you want them to sort of confess their love for each other and then they're immediately pulled apart. Like, that makes sense. But again, it's just what led up to it. Yeah, I mean, everything was satisfying, or not satisfying. Everything was entertaining. Yeah. But at this point, because they have covered so much ground and they have gone so off the wall with certain things, it had sort of an also ran feel. Like, these are things that we've seen before. I will say I did not predict Victoria Newman getting ripped in half.
Neither did I.
By the bile inside of Butcher. Yeah. And I do think that Starlight is unjustifiably angry at Huey. Like, the fact that he kept having to say, like, by the way, I thought it was you. But it was fine. I mean, but knowing that we are going into the last season, hopefully, because they do have that endpoint that, you know, they can see the finishing line, that hopefully what they didn't land this season, they're focusing all that energy on the last.
Yeah, it seemed. Yeah, I like the episode. I like the season overall. I do think the subtlety has been. I kind of like the subtlety. To be honest with you, now that we've done a whole season where it was really in your face, the subtlety you now appreciate it in previous seasons, and the artistry of being subtle with stuff like this, and the how can I say, it's a clever ways you can weave the commentary that is topical commentary within the world of The Boys. I do think now it was missing a little bit. That being said, though, yeah, like you guys, I enjoyed every one of the storylines. I hear your point, Shannon. Kind of felt like that was out of the blue, even though they've been hinting at it for a long time. But I will say this, the Ryan scene I thought was fantastic. And I thought this is very much setting up that it's going to be him against his dad in season 5. Or worst case scenario, Homelander is killed early and Ryan essentially sees it and becomes the new Homelander, and we start a whole new cycle again, possibly, because it seemed to be interesting that Ryan is stuck between his father, who he found out raped his mom, killed these people on the flight, murdered a bunch of other people, and then his stepdad, or his dad that he loves, who is about to launch a virus into the world that's going to kill all the supers, including Ryan. So this idea that you're stuck between two megalomaniacs who might be icing half the world or a portion of the world, it's a tough place for a kid to be in. But R.I.P. Grace, man, I thought that was sad. Yeah, Mike, you were going to say?
R.I.P. Grace. Well, I was going to agree with. Like, I think that they're so. It sounds like I didn't like it. And in general, I still really enjoy The Boys. I just think that this season didn't quite reach the heights of the first 3. But I think this episode had some really, really cool and interesting things thematically. Like when the shifter is talking to Starlight, and I thought because like last week when the shifter opened the safe. Because I'm so used to like Mystique and other shapeshifters, and like, how the fuck do you know the code? But like that was answered this week with the whole fact that this shifter is also a telepath, which led to this really interesting conversation where she said, every one of you thinks you're justified. Every one of you thinks you're the hero of your own story, which is
Yeah,
true of
yeah.
life. Like every one of us, the way that we go through life is we're the main characters.
Sure.
Like all of us think we're the main character of our own story because we are. So this idea that all of you think you're the heroes, you think you're justified, isn't just a cool shapeshifter conversation. Thematically, that applies to the entire show.
Right.
From Homelander to Starlight to Butcher to Huey, everybody thinks they're the hero and thinks what they are doing is justified from their point of view. And I think that's key to the show.
Yeah.
And then I think when you get to that Ryan scene, yeah, like I really like what they did with Ryan here, because Ryan has just sort of been going along and going back and forth, but Ryan doing what he does to Grace is the moment where you go, because like, look, Ryan up to this point is you're a good kid. Theoretically, you could go bad. And we need to make sure we don't go down that road, but you're a good kid. The moment he goes, get out of my way, and pushes Grace the way he does, you go, oh, it's not theoretical anymore. Yeah. Like, you're potentially very, very dangerous, but you're also our last hope. But then that gets into what Huey's whole speech is at the end, which was a little forced, came out of nowhere, but I think is like, this is the core of the show, which is Huey's like, look, all we do is violence. Like we fight these monsters and our response to that is to become monsters. That's what we can't do. We actually have to, it's the braver thing to do, the riskier thing to do is to not be the monster, is to like take that high road. Now, you can look at what's happening in the real world right now, and you can apply that to a lot of the things that are happening in our current political state over the past week and a half. But in the world of The Boys, it's the same thing. And that really comes down to Ryan. Like, it really comes down to, we're going to get into this final season, and now Butcher has the virus. Homelander has taken over. Superheroes have turned our country into a police state. They're going to be putting all of the super woke people into internment camps. And what do? Like, is the right thing to do to be as bad as Homelander so that you can save everybody because you're justified, like the shapeshifter said? Or do you choose the higher road like Huey says? So I think, like, despite the fact that it was a little rocky and it didn't all fully come together for me, thematically, I feel like they're setting up a really strong, like, this is what The Boys is saying. This is the core of the show. So I think that was really cool.
What about the Ashley situation? Or yeah, what did you think about the Ryan situation, Shannon? I don't know. Do you want to chime in on that one?
I mean, I was glad that we didn't see a blood splatter on the wall when he shoved Grace. Yeah. So I'm still kind of hoping that maybe she's alive.
Yeah, she did.
But I did like that scene, and where Butcher goes as a result of that scene. Like, you see, like, the Joe Kessler side of him really takes over, and now it seems like he's aware of what he can do. Like, the Joe Kessler side was always sort of operating in the shadows of his psyche, whereas now he's accepted what it is, and along with killing Victoria Norman, sure seems like he's ready to kill Ryan right now.
Yeah.
And in terms of Ashley, redhead Ashley, not the other poor Ashley that Black Noir 2 shish kebabbed.
Look, everyone's named Ashley here. Don't blame me.
That whole sequence, actually, of them kind of taking out the people and Firecracker, you know, having an adverse reaction to the hormones she's taking so she can lactate. Now she can't catch anybody, so she takes out a gun and shoots a guy in the back. The whole section was again, I don't want to say it was funny because it's obviously horrible, but it was very engaging. But yeah, I mean, knowing that Ashley has now injected herself with V, where does that put her?
Well, I mean, my theory is, because we've seen, look, I mean, Homelander's obviously Superman, Maeve is Wonder Woman, Black Noir is kind of a Batman, also Tech Knight is kind of a Batman. Like, and now Butcher is kind of giving us Venom. Like, we've seen a lot of, okay, I get who everybody sort of, A-Train is the Flash. One big superhero we've not seen. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Ashley's going full Hulk.
Oh shit! I didn't think about that. I thought she was gonna be Brainiac because her head was moving, but Hulk is great.
I kind of think Ashley
shit.
We're about to see Ashley fully Hulk out. That I could be 100% wrong. Like there's nothing,
no,
just the moment that even before she sort of fell over and her wig came off, like she put the V in and I'm like, so where does this go? Like, okay, so she's going to get powers, but what happens there?
Yeah.
And Ashley kind of just being a super strong version of Ashley who's like, you can't touch me now because now I'm strong is kind of like, okay. But like the desperation of I'm going to pump myself up with gamma rays. This sort of feels to me like, oh, Ashley, don't make Ashley mad. Ashley smash.
Yeah.
Is where I think this goes.
You mean Smashly?
Oh no. No. No.
So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right next season, but that is my guess.
There's no way that joke isn't made next season if she becomes Hulk. That's absolutely true. Yeah, but it's an interesting thing that's being lined up now because, A-Train is gone basically with the boys in essence. Starlight is now over there. Ashley, I would imagine, is going to go over there. I don't know where Zoe goes, right? Zoe ends up back at Red River where her mom was. So kind of a cruel twist of fate there. So where does Zoe go? Is she going to go with the people who, who killed her mom, and that's essentially Butcher and the boys, all complicit by being there? Or does she go with Homelander, who essentially threatened to kill her and her mom if they didn't do everything he wanted? So this is going to be interesting. I will say it bothered me. I mean, Sage coming in and saying, oh, this is the plan all along. It's a little Deus Ex Machina for me.
It's a little convenient.
Yeah, it's a little convenient. But that being said, like, you've got to counter her somehow. Like, there's got to be a way to counter her. So someone on the boys has to somehow counter this whole situation. We'll see how that plays out in season 5. Yeah, Mike.
It's an interesting thing because I personally love the person who's so smart that's their superpower. Yeah. I mean, look, Batman is awesome. Batman has all the gadgets. He's super rich. The best part about Batman is he's outthought everybody. And we just accept that about Batman. Reed Richards is the smartest man in the Marvel universe. He outthinks everybody. Like, I love the Moriarty aspect of Sage.
Yeah, good point.
I think, and so like when she came in, I fully knew that was where that scene was going. I fully knew this was my plan all along.
Yeah.
The problem, what you need to do to sell that is you need to drop a few specifics. Had she come in and said, this was my plan all along, and Homelander was like, the fuck, this was your plan. And she had said, really? You did this. That's why I did this ahead of time. That's why this happened. Victoria Newman was going to do this. That's why I did this. That's why this happened. If you had just put like 2 things in there, you don't have to explain everything, but given us a little bit of like, let's watch how Sage's mind works. I don't think it would have felt so Deus Ex Machina. The thing that I liked about the scene, as far as like her motivation, because like, Rocha, you were talking about this a lot, like what's Sage's motivation, what's behind this. I do love I wanted to see if I could do it.
Just to see if I could. Oh my God, that was great.
That part great. I love. Like, this is someone who is so smart, she's basically bored. Yeah. And her whole, like, you know what? I wanted to go ahead and see if I could break apart the country and split it down the middle and actually, like, let you take over. Like, the result of that is going to be fucking horrible, but I got plans for that too. So I do think, in a way, and it'll be interesting to see how they play it next season, because as powerful as Homelander is, arguably, Sage is the bigger threat in a way. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. But I don't disagree with you that when you have a character that has that whole I'm smarter than everybody, if you don't write them carefully, it starts to come across really annoying because it feels like lazy writing. Like, if that character can just come into any room and go, I planned this all along. It's like, okay, no. Now I'm bored with this. So you actually, it's a double-edged sword with a character like that, and you have to play it really carefully.
Shan, did you feel the same way about Sage coming in there at the end?
Yeah, I was with you, but I do think that's a really easy fix that Vogel just doctored. That if you gave her a couple of for instances, because anytime like A-Train was taking a photo of her, it's like, okay, she knows he's there. Like that's just so obvious. But I think if you had given her a couple of more kind of deeper cuts, like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about this, I didn't think about that, I think it would have been a little more satisfying. Well, I kind of thought she was gonna be lobotomized because they made such a big deal of that early with the Deep, that at some, because you're like, don't hit it too hard because this. I thought for sure that's how she was going to go out. And
Right.
maybe that's what's going to happen in season 5. And another question that I have is Zoe ending up at Red Rivers.
Yeah.
I thought for sure she was going to Stan Edgar.
Oh, yeah, maybe. That's a great point. Maybe they couldn't pay Giancarlo to come back for an episode, or the schedule didn't work. But yeah, he could still end up in the next season of taking her out of Red River.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Shannon, to your earlier note about the shapeshifter, like a really easy thing would have been Sage had planned to record everything, and she's the one who released the video of the president saying what he said. You know what I mean? Like there's just like little things like that. There's little things like that if you were like, oh, okay, this doesn't feel too Deus Ex Machina. You clearly had this planned out. It's a couple little things that really make the difference.
I thought she had sent the video when she went to go get them water. That's what I thought, because she was in that kitchen by herself. We didn't see her, and it was after the president had said what he said. So that's what I thought. But I hear your point. Like, we should have seen her send the video. That makes all the sense in the world. Let's wrap up by asking. Oh, go ahead, Shannon.
Well, I was going to say the only pushback I would have to that is the plan was to kill him, was to see Starlight kill him.
Right.
So why is she uploading this video?
Oh, good point. So that makes sense. Why would she record the interactions?
Yeah.
Whereas
we didn't know that it was
Sage,
maybe. Yeah.
Sage is planning everything all along. Like that's like, again, that's the fun of a character like that, but we'll see. So again, I think that I liked every individual piece. I just feel like it didn't come together.
I want to ask about this one, Gen V stuff. Right at the end, did you guys like this? What are your thoughts on this? Is this to tease a season 2 of Gen V? Are they going to have more guest stars from the boys in a season 2 of Gen V, or does this become, wait, we don't want to be Homelander's SS, and they push back to make a Nazi reference? What do you guys anticipate this from the Gen V finale there?
Well, I think Gen V, that second season was supposed to happen, but that one cast member was killed, like a motorcycle accident, I think, right? And so I don't know if that season has been curtailed as a result of that, but I think it's just when the boys season 5 finishes, my guess is that Amazon does not want to be done with the world of the boys. Like they want to keep going. It's just that this main show will have concluded.
Yeah. What do you think of this ending?
Like the death of the one guy notwithstanding, which is horrible and so sad, but it feels like, and I could be wrong about this, but you've got your leads of Gen V trapped in a building. Like they're and if you're building up to this big season finale and you're using part of the cast of Gen V as Homelander sort of SS, it feels like you want to have Gen V season 2 come out before the final season of The Boys, have those heroes of Gen V break out and be a part of that story. Like it's all like when you're doing the classic superhero, like, you know, we're coming to the big end, the big epic crossover. You want to have everybody on the board. So it feels like that Gen V was sort of planned to be, we're bringing these characters in as well, because to John's point, look, it's a no-brainer that A-Train and Starlight are going to probably meet up early season 5, and Kimiko. Like, so you have 3 supers who are on the good guy side. We have some good soups that are trapped underneath, or trapped wherever they're being held. We're building up that we want soup against soup. The boys are great, but we want to see some superhero action. And so those people at Gen V are just like, we should use them. So let's get them out. And, you know, as far as the guy who died, I think I don't know. Like, I think you have this, and this is either you recast him and say, we're just recasting him and we all get it because it's sad he's passed away. Or you open up season 2 with, they took him out and punished him and he's dead and you just move on. Like there's ways to write around that or recast it, but I kind of feel like we're going to want to like get that. I do agree with Shannon that, like, given the success of The Boys, Amazon doesn't want to get rid of it anytime soon. And they've already said that even though season 5 is the end of The Boys story, which means it's the end of the Homelander story, the universe of The Boys is rich. Like there's a lot of stories to tell in this universe, even once this story is done, particularly if you end with sort of a soups are all on their own and the world doesn't really trust them anymore. So how do superheroes win back the people's trust? Like there's lots of stories you can tell that are kind of the next chapter of this universe.
Yeah. And it's not like Prime doesn't like doing that. I mean, we just had a trailer drop, yesterday or 2 days ago for the Citadel spinoff, Diana, and that wasn't even well received. The Citadel, and they're still spinning shit off of that franchise. So they did. You're right about that, Mike and Shannon, for sure. All right, final thoughts here as we wrap up this particular season of The Boys going into season 5. Shannon, your final thoughts.
Even though it wasn't as satisfying as it was in the past, to me, this was not Game of Thrones. The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like there was still enough that they got right, and there was still enough that is interesting, that is upcoming, that I would never. If someone hadn't watched The Boys, I'd be like, it's gonna hit a little speed bump in season 4, but hopefully they stick the landing with season 5. So even though not as satisfying, still very enjoyable, very entertaining.
Agreed. Michael, you were starting your final thoughts earlier. Continue, please.
Yeah, I think Shannon's right. This is not Game of Thrones season 8. This is Friday Night Lights season 2. Like this is a hey guys, Friday Night Lights is one of the best shows of all time. You got to get through season 2. Like this is The Boys is a great universe. It is well written. Season 4 is going to be a little rocky. It's going to not be your favorite, but it ends strong enough that you can get into season 5, and I still have faith they're going to stick the landing.
This is Landry killed a guy, is what you're saying.
This is the Landry killed a guy season. And by the way, if you've never watched Friday Night Lights and you're mad that I just spoiled something that happens in season 2, I just spoiled the stupidest storyline in Friday Night Lights, and you can still watch the show and it's great. And you're welcome that I got in front of the thing that you're going to hate.
Fair point. Yeah, I agree with the guys. For the most part, I think I liked it better than both of them, but not that much better than both of them. But certainly enjoyed the season, and I like spending time with these actors, and I like spending time with these characters. And I think Erin Moriarty really came on strong in the last couple episodes, which was fun to see. Victoria Demit giving her more to do. A lot of people have been talking about her possibly as a Talia al Ghul in the DC universe. I was initially
I'm not mad about it.
But
I'm not mad about it. By the way, I think here's how good of an actor. I want to say 2 things about both of those actors. The thing about her, she is so good as an actress that I actually felt sad. Not Erin Moriarty. Victoria Newman.
Yeah.
I was actually sad when she died, and she was a bad character. And I think it's like, I think she's great and she's one to watch. And on Erin Moriarty, I just want to take a moment. I thought about this earlier.
Yeah.
Everyone on Twitter is so fucking mean to Erin Moriarty.
I know.
And everyone is all up in her physical appearance and making fun and saying she did this and she did that and she had work done and she's starving herself and whatever. And while all that is going on, she is consistently doing amazing work on this show. Starlight is a great character. She does an amazing job. And I wish people would just like get off her shit and leave her the fuck alone. And just appreciate the fact that she's a really good actress. Like she's doing really good stuff. And every time I scroll through Twitter and I see all the people just going off on everything about her, I'm like, leave her the fuck alone.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, her scenes with herself. Better than a recent series where I saw 2 people acting against themselves. I would say the scenes were better.
Whenever you do those scenes and it's so like with visual effects, you can make everything look seamless. So having an actor or actress work against themselves, like it looks great always. But there is a subtle difference. And you're right. I didn't even think about it until you just said it, because she was so good in both of those roles. That scene where she comes in and she's like chained up and the shifter comes in, she was so good at playing both those roles that it didn't even occur to me that I was watching an actress play against herself, because I was so invested in the moment. So yeah, my final thoughts are everybody leave Erin Moriarty the fuck alone. She's great.
That's a fair point. I agree. She is great. Yeah, her eviscerating herself was phenomenal. Like phenomenal for sure. But everyone, like Frenchie, Kamika, everyone had chances. Mother's Milk, really good chances throughout the season to show what they can do. And it was great to see. And Anthony Starr, that when Ryan walks in and Anthony turns around, and that combo of unadulterated anger and brokenheartedness in the look that he gives Ryan, because he has the picture of Butcher and Becca and the dog, like that is so difficult to play and walk that line correctly where you feel sorry and horrified by this person at the same time. Anthony Starr, it's just wonderful work yet again as Homelander all and Firecracker and Sage as well. The two actresses who played them, great additions.
Yeah, the performances across the board are strong. The one thing I do want to add now that you brought it up is that with that final moment is the other part that leads into what we're going to deal with in season 5 is he was playing all of that. He was playing the anger and he was heartbroken and he was hurt and he's playing all those things at once. But the other thing he does play in that moment is this is the one kid that he can't, this is the one person that he can't boss around.
Yes.
Like he was so mad and he's like, Ryan, get back here. Ryan, get back here. Ryan walks out. And it's the only person that can do that because it's the only person that actually is strong enough that he can't hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be fun to see. I can't wait to see that. A little invincible action. All right. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it madly. As we said, this was a 3-topic one, but look, we went an hour and 20 minutes for God's sakes. Shannon, what do we have to tell them here as we wrap up?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says. And also, Comic-Con is next week. If you're going, if you see one of us, come up and say hi.
Yeah, we'll see what our plans are for a show before these gentlemen go or after. We'll see, but we'll figure that out certainly. So stay tuned for the news on that. Michael?
No paparazzi. No paparazzi. That's what I'm going to say on Comic-Con. No paparazzi. Thanks for watching. We would also thank you very much if you would smash that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What do you think of the trailers? What do you think of the Russos? What do you think of the state of Marvel? What did you think of the season of The Boys? Let us know all of it below in the comments. And if you're listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some comments and some stars there so we go up in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, we posted our Acolyte spoiler review for the final episode there. Also, House of the Dragon earlier this week, and that'll be, of course, in a couple of days as well. We'll talk about it. But thank you for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of The
Geek